Limpa Kali Kong. Singaporean's opportunistic animal in the world, the most ticking-face creature in the world. Singapore Kia Bolampachi. Never in the recent history of China has there been such national wrath evoked against a foreign political leader such as the current campaign against our eminent minister mentor Lee Kuan Yew for his xenophobic call to the American President Barack Obama to engage in Asia in order to counterbalance the overwhelming emergence of China's economic and military powers. This was one time the highfalutin minister mentor Lee opened his big mouth and invited disaster, which in a way will have repercussion on Singapore. The Chinese are a people who will not easily forget a favor or a treachery. It looks like this anti-minister mentor Lee movement in China, especially among its netizens, is not going away for a long time. The Singapore Chinese are described as having abandoned their ancestry, Shudian Wangzong, and Singapore is depicted as opportunistic. The way the campaign is carried out in China is reminiscent of the early days in Singapore when a French-educated Chinese journalist branded as a Mauser, literally a Tuohei brat. A totally derogatory reference to a westernized Chinese devoid of Chinese culture, a certain political leader. This is the theme the Chinese netizens are plugging, which is an uncanny coincidence as the audacious Chinese journalist has long departed from this world. Minister mentor Lee is not unknown to be constantly ingratiating himself with Chinese leaders and made frequent visits to China in order to pay his obeisance. But now the Chinese felt that they've been stabbed in the back by none other than a Sinophile who has all along professed undying affection for the Chinese people. At the same time, this chameleonic leader hightailed all the way to America to hobnob with its president and give his earth-shattering advice to the latter to contain China. Were the Chinese wrong in describing Singapore as opportunistic? We will now come back to some sense of reality. Do Singapore taxpayers really believe that the annual remuneration of $3 million Minister mentor Lee receives is a fair charge on them? To all intents and purposes, the office of Minister mentor appears to be a sinecure. What he does is to jet around to spout his whimsical ideas upon gullible audiences around the world. That not surprisingly included such discerning world leaders like President Barack Obama. And occasionally he made a boo-boo out of it. We think he has a more than prodigious nest egg to see him through a luxurious lifestyle until the coffin is closed and we have a verdict.